Hi guys, and welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. We help Muslims and non-Muslims alike to understand and handle Islam in the 21st century. We consider ourselves to be decent human beings, so we condemn categorically any abuse, oppression, misogyny, slavery, violence, anything like that. We do embrace, however, free speech and also criticism, even if it is directed at us, if it is factual and constructive criticism. We focus on Islam exclusively. So if you're curious about anything Islam, you've come to the right place. Now, we don't attack, which is aggressive, destructive, and antagonistic, neither Islam nor Muslims. We ask questions and show facts. We refute false claims and present the reality of Islam, which is political Islam. We inspect, investigate, research, analyze, and then report and critique on Islam, the ideology, not the people. Now, the live stream goes to YouTube and Facebook, and there are three ways that you can participate in this. Either you join us in the live written chat, you can join the panel during the live show, or later on watch and comment the archive. And anyone can join to comment, critique, contribute, or question. This is not a Dawah channel with censorship. Don't go to Patreon, don't go to PayPal. Everything here is free. The way we work is usually we have some news, some Krazy Komments, a segment where we go and read the Quran, and then a discussion on the theme of the month, followed by integrating the live chat, ending with a Hadith of the week. If this is not enough Islam for you, there's still the Discord channel where you can discuss with us without anything being recorded. See you later and enjoy the Gin and Tonic Show. Hello and welcome. It is the 7th of May 2021. We are talking about Islam, lo and behold. And we have just had a wonderful month of investigating Muhammad together with a lot of people, especially the ones on the panel. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here. Gentlemen, we've only had like 3 or 4 ladies in the last 5 years or something. It's amazing that it's usually guys talking about religions and gods and things like that. It's very, very rare that you get women talking about funny. Well, gentlemen, welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. Welcome to another Friday, 8 p.m. UK time, where we talk about Islam. Welcome, Mr. Speakers. How are you doing, sir?
Good evening, everybody. Evening Stops, evening Moose. Evening to all the viewers. Yeah, I'm okay, recovering. Had an incredibly hectic week, which is kind of good, but it was also incredibly intense work for a client. So,
That's good
to be here and looking forward to it.
How's your liquid intake doing?
Yeah, I'm drinking a fair amount, so that's good. Lots of water.
And Mr. R?
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Happy Ramadan, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. And basically, we are approaching the end of Ramadan, and we just passed the, I think, the Night of Abundance, or Laylatul Qadr. And then we also passed the 19th to 21st of Ramadan, aka the assassination of Ali. So,
what a way to commemorate this!
I know, right? Like we have the assassination of Ali. Ooh, Laylatul Qadr. It's like, wait, what?
By the way, I don't know. I'm still on this email list of Abdul Rahim Green, and he's always sending me these messages that I need to give him more and more money for Eid, money for this wonderful commemoration event that you just mentioned. I don't know how I got on this list, but he's always sending me the stuff. Always.
Oh, did you see that one live stream I pointed out to you? It was like an auction live stream. Adnan Rashid and the other guys, they were milking the viewers. Hey, donate, keep donating. Yes, we're going to keep going until everybody, finished donating. They kept the show running for hours. Kept on begging for donations.
Well, the most famous one, I think, was when Aira did this and Rationalizer called in there. And he said, look, I would like to donate, but I'd like to make sure that this goes to starving children. No. Starving children is a worthy cause. We agree with that. But Dawah is much more worthy because remember, you're going to get the reward of all the people that are going to join. And Rashna said, "What reward am I fucking talking about? What am I going to get? I get more, a warm and fuzzy feeling from knowing that starving children are being saved, than some guy who is gullible going into Islam." Boof, and he was out. And he gave the whole update. He made a video about this, how in the background he was kept hanging, and they said, yeah, this and this, and he gave the whole spiel and how disgusted he was at this, and this was wonderful. So yeah, that's what it is at the end of the day. Actually, I'm doing this on my German channel at the moment. Now there's an IERA. Well, is it a subsidiary? I don't know. The guy is sitting there with an IERA T-shirt. And I found that the intelligence community is taking a harder look at IERA and all the subsidies, because they're getting a little bit worried, because they're seeing all this international sort of networking that they are setting up. Like now they're going to, where's it, South America or something, because they're making so much money that they can afford to send a whole team across the world. Remember, they've been to Bahrain for the Formula One, they've been to Brazil for the football championship and things like that. So now they're being watched by, I can't remember which intelligent agencies in what countries are involved in this, but there are quite a few now. And there was, somebody did a master thesis on this and explained all the connections between all the different companies. And it's quite amazing that I happened to bump into this company in Austria who is an affiliate of IERA. And it's quite weird that they share this yellow T-shirt with "Life is just a game," except it's in German, of course. It's quite weird if you look at all the connections that you bump into and you come across, and the identical line of argumentation and the silliness and the I don't know, this very callous approach that they have towards people. Exactly what Rob just mentioned with the donation drive. This is exactly what they did. The same thing for hours and hours, milking people. You need to go. This is for your benefit. And look how many people you are bringing to the dean, and you getting all the rewards. And if you donate, we're able to continue our work. And my goodness, this is so silly. And yet a lot of people fall for it, you know.
This is called IERA. How do you spell it?
Sorry.
IERA.
IERA.
So it's the Islamic Research and Education Academy.
Oh, they're in Canada. Yeah, oh dear, they're in Canada too.
They're all over the show. No, sorry, it's the Islamic Education and Research Academy.
Education and Research Academy. Yes. Here we have, these mongrels are here too.
Because they're in Australia, they're in different countries. They're now moving into Europe, and this is why they're being watched now, because it's getting a little bit too heavy. And there are very few people who actually can and want to engage with them, because it is quite tiring, it is quite frustrating. It was quite encouraging now that somebody said to me, well, thank you that you are doing it, because if anybody can, then it's you, because you are like you're biting and then you're stuck. You don't let go so easy. So this is quite encouraging for me to take this on. So, yeah.
Hey, Stops, just as a matter of interest, because I have it on the side here. That guy that perfect Dawah guy has hopped onto Pine Creek. So I think he's like the same as some of these others, right? They don't want to come here because we know a little, and you know more than me. You guys know more than me, but we know a little bit more about Islam. So it's much easier to go to somebody like that that's kind of nice and doesn't know much about Islam. So you can kind of bullshit through it. Not that he'll allow that, but because we did chase up. So it's just fascinating that he didn't want to come, but he's quite happy to be on camera on the other stream.
Yeah,
but he's still saying yes, he will, but he doesn't. It's really, I think this is exactly the background that you are pointing out. I think this is what it is. As soon as somebody realizes that we know something about Islam, then they're more hesitant.
Yeah.
With Pine Creek, I think they still think they have a chance, even though they have less of a chance with Pine Creek than they have with us. This is the irony. Oh shit! This is so funny.
Oh yeah. But yeah, this is the website apparently. So it does say new Muslim education, how to become Muslim, learning the prayer, Dawah training. This one fascinates me. And of course,
Yeah, this is the same. Yeah, this is the same everywhere. Exactly.
all right, I'll stop there.
So if you want a private project or something, you go and you take any one of their videos and debunk it and then make it special or make it specific
Oh,
for Canada and show people in Canada what kind of
oh yeah,
idiots these are.
definitely.
So this can be quite a good project. Okay, welcome people in the chat. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. Remember, you can participate, you can contribute, you can do anything. We had the kind offer of Thinking Clearly, who's going to be not entertaining, but infotaining us with some things. So he's going to be doing some background research, and then going to hopefully, because I like this idea very much, that people come here, and I've been talking about this for years now, where I like people coming in and taking a spot and taking either a segment or doing a theme of the month or something like this. So this would be great. Okay, let us go into our routine. What I like doing usually is showing some inspiration from Islam, because don't let anybody think that we're just doing the negatives. We're doing the positives too. So this is a positive message, that somebody says, well, Alhamdulillah, so thank you, dear Lord, for always giving me what I needed instead of what I wanted. Now, again, superficially, it sounds nice, but imagine if you're a slave. Is that really what the slave wanted? Or imagine if you're being the wife. All you want is just a little bit of peace and quiet, and maybe be able to go to evening classes or something like this, and the husband says, no, under no circumstances. Is that really what this wife needs instead of what she wants? And if the husband slaps her around, is that what she needs, not what she wants? So these inspirational messages, I find, always somehow what I would call double-edged, because they're never quite clear in what all the good is and whether they really are all good. Now, last week, and I'm not going to go into any news, because last week I said that there are new estimates of the number of Muslims on this planet. Now, I've got about a dozen of these, and these are different links to different outlets where they go from 1.7 billion, and this is an old one, and now the latest figures are 1.3 and 1.2 billion Muslims. Now, for some odd reason, all these, I don't know, 12, 13, how many they are, they're all around the 1.2, 1.3 billion mark. Now, Pew, on the other hand, is still claiming 1.7. Now, I don't know, has anybody looked at the methodology of Pew? Has anybody ever looked at this, how reliable those numbers are? Because I did a video on this showing that I was not so convinced of what it is that they were doing. And the way that they sort of got the information was by self-provided information. They would, ring up a mosque and say, how many members do you have? What other mosques do you have in your area, blah, blah. This is how they would get information, which is fine to a certain extent. But you need to also appreciate that if you do this, then of course the numbers are going to be exaggerated. And if you call the one mosque, it could be that there is one guy going to one mosque for the 1 week and to the other one another week. So that, there's a lot of double counting, even if the numbers inside the mosque themselves are accurate. So I see that there's a lot of, I don't know, error. Do you know what an error bar is?
Yeah, like the I think what you're referring to is the oh crap, I forgot that too. I studied statistics not too long ago. Margin of error?
For example, yeah.
Yeah. So I know, like, with your example too, like as back when I was a Muslim too, there are two mosques within Toronto that I normally went to. two different ones, and it depended on which one will just happen to be close or just happen to have certain prayers, certain events happening at the time. I wasn't necessarily loyal to one. I went to several throughout my life. So
Yeah.
you can't just rely on one mosque.
So if you use that methodology,
Yeah.
I mean, it's notoriously difficult to find numbers for a specific ideology, because you don't really go and you vote for something by name, and you don't put your own identity into this. So there are very few countries where they actually go and they say, okay, well, what religion are you? And then even this is inaccurate, because if you, for example, are living with your parents are, I don't know, Muslims, let's take it that example. And then somebody comes to your household and says, well, what religion are you? Well, your father will say, we are all Muslims, even though you are not.
Right.
So
Yeah.
this is incredibly difficult to quantify. This is why I go more towards this attitude, what has happened with this poll in Iran, where they actually rang up, I think it was 59,000 people. And they said, okay, this is anonymous, so you don't have to identify yourself as such. And I just want to ask you some questions. And they asked, I think, 12 or 13 questions. And in the results of those, I see more a reflection of reality than I do in Pew. This is why I would love to have people tell me what they think about the Pew numbers that we are constantly getting, because I'm really a little bit unsure of how valuable and how reliable the numbers are from Pew that are being quoted by Muslims, because they are quite high. So I'm not quite sure of what to make with this, because there's a direct contradiction between the Pew numbers and the poll in Iran and what I have observed myself. Because if I think back of the colleagues who came to me and they sort of, yeah, I need to fast, and then they were winking at me. Of course they were not fasting, they were not praying, they were not. I mean, I was working with these guys. Of course, we had one floor reserved only for prayer, 2/3 for the men, 1/3 for the women. But how many people actually went there? It was basically zero. They worked the same hours as I did. Now, they should have had a minimum of 3 prayers while we were at work, and they didn't. So what does that tell you? It tells you that they did not pray the way that they were supposed to. Then, I mean, with the fasting, they went out with us. Come on the weekend, I didn't give a two about whether something was closed. I went to Carrefour or something, got something to eat, and then went and sat somewhere outside and ate. And there were a lot of Muslims who did the same. So, what I observe, this is not in line with what Pew is telling me, that there are billions and billions of Muslims all going, being pious adherents of their faith. I don't see that. So I have a problem with this.
I think they could also be counting people who are even not considered Muslims by mainstream, I'll just use the term mainstream sects, for example, such as, people from the Nation of Islam group, or you have the Ahmadis, who are actually declared non-Muslims, especially in Pakistan, they're declared non-Muslims. So
Yeah.
could be even counting the Ahmadi Muslims themselves. I call them Ahmadi Muslims because, they believe in almost everything except this one aspect. So they're almost the same. Like Islam and Ahmadi Islam are practically extremely similar, except one key difference: Mirza.
Well, the one prophet thing, yeah, that's it.
That's it. And yeah, I think they could be counting the Ahmadi Muslims. They could be also counting the Druze as well. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. This is also like maybe some other heretical or considered heretical groups as well. So, that's why the numbers could be exaggerated.
Well, Mouse Arab and I did this video where we said, okay, well, you have 2 billion Muslims, but then if you sort of ask about the individual sects, no, those are not Muslims. No, those are not Muslims either. And we carried on with this for, I think, I don't know, 15 or something different groups. And then he would always say, no, 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 they're not Muslims. And then, of course, in the end, I asked, well, how many Muslims are actually left? I don't know, it's 2 billion. I mean, we're one ummah, you know.
The
So
one,
it's
yeah, like
it depends on how you count it.
yeah, and also like according to certain people, only Sunni Muslims or only Hanafi Sunni Muslims or Hanbali Sunni Muslims. Oh no, not all Hanbali, but specific Salafi or Wahhabi, or even in the Deobandi sect, they have like Barelvi. Only true Barelvis are the Muslims. So that really reduces the number if you just go on a purely like Deobandi sect, because that's just a modern movement amongst the Hanafi. That's like a sect of a sect of a sect.
Wow. Yeah. Anyway, so I really look forward to, or look, I'd be very happy if somebody could provide some real input into the reliability, because what I found was not reliable at all. But it could be just me. If somebody else can show, because I went and I analyzed the actual data that Pew Research provides, how they deduct it and how they weigh this and how they do this and how they massage this, and I wasn't happy with that. But I can't find. And Rob asked a very valid, very good question. He says, "Is there another institution with the visibility and impact as Pew actually does have?" Because a lot of people find Pew very reliable. Okay, and this is their sort of trademark, and this is their point of sale. And the question is now: is this something that I can justifiably challenge, or is this something? Is there somebody else with a similar, I don't know, visibility or whatever, that can say no, 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 we have very different numbers? Because all I have basically is just other people saying no, we think it's this and this and this based on this and this. Okay, then I have the poll from Iran, but I don't have this worldwide. So all I can do is take what Pew Research tells me about Iran and what the poll tells me about Iran. And those are two very, very different things. And there it's now very, well, in my eyes, incredibly difficult to establish who is now correct, who is right, who has a more reliable set of data. This, I don't know.
And Iran is only looking at specific. The majority of Iran is only adherents to Jafari Shia Islam. So
No, this is not this. What they are asking is, well, how much of a Muslim are you? And the funny thing is that 2/3 of the people, or 3/4, I can't remember, are actually against the meddling of Islam in politics.
Oh yes,
They want this out. They want a secular state. They want Islam only as a sort of a spiritual. I don't know. I hate this word spiritual, but as a sort of an emotional thing, whereas the facts should be determined by the state, by the government, by a secular government, and not by a constitution where Allah is the highest power in the land. This is very, very high in Iran, and most of them are saying, look, we're sick and tired of being governed by Islam. But now this is in direct conflict with what Pew is saying. So how do you determine now who is right and who is wrong? You see, this is the problem. So, yeah. Okay, if anybody does have input, I'd love to hear it. In the meantime, what is our next segment? I've got some really crazy comments today. Really, I mean, this is wonderful. I mean, Rob's going to love this too, because this is what Aira is doing at the moment, and this was on the SC Dawah channel, where Latin Americans want to read the Quran. They want to read it so badly that they are coming to the UK to read the. Oh, sorry, no, it's the other way around. They so badly want to read the Quran that they need to be force-fed by a subur going to South America or Latin America to go and teach them about the Quran in English. Or is it, I know they've got a Spanish translation. So if it comes to going and convincing people they should join, any translation will do, any language will do. But if you want to leave, no, then you need to study ancient Arabic before you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, it's I think they're following also like the I think a lot of Christian groups did go like 30, 40 years ago, I believe. So now they're I think this is like a second mover strategy, what you call in economics. Like they're trying to get a market share of Latin America.
Yeah, but this is, I think this is now just getting money.
Um,
I think I understand what you're saying, and it would be nice if it were that, but I suspect it's just about making money. It's not about anything. I mean, look at it, 6 hours. This is just a live appeal, just so that they can have a word. Yeah, we're going to Latin America to get more Muslims. Yeah, because they're Christians, and maybe they're going to get to the Pinaha and they will convert them to atheists. I don't know. But this is so silly that they are saying, let's take Islam to South America when Latin Americans want to read the Quran. I mean, if they want to read the Quran, they can just open the internet or they can order a book. You don't need some people coming from the UK going to South America who don't speak the language, who don't have any clue about the local culture, telling them about the wonders of Islam. The way that they, I don't know if you guys saw them when they went to Africa, when they went to Mali and Malawi and so on. They did this and they show these people running around with the Quran.
oh my goodness, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
Now, this is quite weird, okay?
May my maker kill Bernard Law.
And what does his Muslim buddy tell him?
I know
guarantee.
this guy. I know this Muhammad Sharif guy. I know this fellow. I guarantee your dua will be answered eventually.
Yeah,
But-
just like the what's it called? The Judgment Day will come eventually. It might not, right? Unless they think that the expansion of a red planet would be Judgment Day. Oh yeah, this guy's a bit of a lunatic, isn't it?
Kill Rob Speakers! Exclamation marks!
There we go. And just in case you were feeling lonely there, stop. There's always a few lunatics.
And of course, his name is may the maker of Abraham kill Bernard Law.
Who is the maker of Abraham? I don't know. Which,
Abraham, are you talking about?
I can make an Abraham, and then what? If I kill myself? I don't know. Okay, can I top this?
Sure you can.
Bernard Long will be judged. Hatun Tash will be judged. Rob Speakers will be judged. This lunatic.
Oh dear.
Now he's complaining. Okay, he's crying like crazy because he made some really crazy things where every single comment. He posted something about love Jesus or something. I don't even know whether this is a Muslim or I don't even know what this is. But I deleted all his comments because it was always the same identical comment. It was some picture of some guy. And he put this on every single comment. And this is why I deleted all of them. And then he just carried on. And I said to him, don't do this. But he continued doing it. So, and this is a feature that I didn't know Facebook has, that you can reduce somebody like this. You can throttle them down a bit. So I'm allowing him one comment a day and one post a day. So this is why you will see this on 2 separate days. And he's allowed to do that. I'm cool with that. But he was flooding us with this shit. And this is why I said no. And now he's screaming, yeah, where's my free speech? Where's my free speech? I said, yeah, you can have free speech. You're allowed to say whatever you want, but you're not allowed to harass and what do you call this? I've got a block. If you follow somebody around.
Oh yeah, that is harassment. That is harassment.
No, there's another word for it.
Stalking, you mean?
Stalk.
Yes.
You're not allowed to stalk us because this is what he's doing. I mean, you can see that.
Yeah.
It's quite obvious. So this is something that you cannot do, and this is at my discretion. I'm sorry. I'm a mod there, and I decide that this is not appropriate. You can have your free speech. If you want to say atheists are fools, cool, do it. But don't come and flood us with mindless ads. So that's exactly what I did. So yeah. Anyway, another video and this is from one message or something. I mean, these guys, this is like a treasure trove. They show exactly what Islam has become in the last 500 years. It's just a collection of rituals. And that is all that there is. This reminds me of what happened to the Catholic Church shortly before Martin Luther came around for the for the Reformation, because there you could also pay, and it was just rituals. It was just this and that. Yeah, it's a pity that Thunder is not here. I think he could confirm this, because now this is say 100 times La ilaha illallah, and that's it. 100 times La ilaha illallah.
Yeah. Say 100 times La ilaha illallah. Now, make some good deeds every day, especially in Ramadan, and especially in the last 10 days of Ramadan.
So what the fuck is that supposed to do? If you say this 100 times now, if you say it 100 times a day, come on, this is like saying abracadabra and I don't know what. This is what Islam is today. And I think this is why Islam is dying, because that's all it is. You have to do so and so many rukas and so many this and this and this, and then you're good to go. It's become an ideology of just rituals.
That was my experience too. Like, especially, and I was fine with the rituals, to be honest. Like, but then it got crazy where it's like, oh, you have to read 2 rakats, then 2 more rakats, then 2 more rakats. I'm like, are you kidding me? Especially on certain days on the Islamic calendar. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because Muhammad did this.
This is because Muhammad did this, or because Ali did this, or someone from Muhammad's family did this. Okay, so yeah, especially like on the whether it was like somewhere in Muharram, somewhere in Safar, somewhere in like Rabiul Awwal, Ramadan, whichever of these months. Like there was even that's the Shaban as well. There's even the celebration in Shaban as well. You have to do certain prayers. So it's crazy. It's ridiculous.
And this is why I think this is, I don't know, it's primitive and it's useless. And this is the other thing. I don't know what this obsession is. I mean, these guys are talking about a really serious topic. They're really having a serious discussion about some issue in Islam. And then some arsehole comes along and then asks, what is the name of that nasheed? Or is that music in the background? What is going on with these people? Is this all that is floating around in their brains? Is that all they have swirling around in there? Come on. You're having a serious discussion and all you worry about is this, no, something in the background? What the hell is wrong with you people?
But keep in mind, Stops, the music is haram, remember? It's the instrument.
Yeah, and this is exactly what is so stupid. How can people worry about things like that? We have serious problems. I mean, really, the topic here was quite serious. And the guy, all he can ask is that music in the background. Or this ubiquitous question. What is the name of that nasheed? If a Muslim doesn't know what to say, then he says, what is the name of the nasheed? I don't know. It's so primitive. That's all they have. That's all there is to what there is. That's what they can say. It's absolutely frightening what these people come up with, and then they still want to be taken seriously.
I should send some of the crazy comments I get from Pakistani Muslims as well. Like, I should share them next time.
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah. Like, because I get some crazy ones asking about incest. Like, what do atheists think about incest? And that's all their brain is floating on. Yeah, you were saying?
I was just saying, this is it. Pakistan is known for this because Google search, records what countries do the most research on kiddies porn and animal porn and bestiality and all this shit, and Pakistan is right up there.
Yeah, or even homosexual porn too. Like, so if anything, like they're always asking about something like this, or "Oh, go sleep with your mother." It's like, God's sake, we actually question them. Do you really need a God to tell you that's wrong?
Okay, we come to the next segment, which is...
It's puzzling. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this before.
There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to share a part of the screen, which is... Oh, I've got the wrong one in front. Of course, it's always like that, isn't it?
What's that on the background?
That's an ambulance going past.
Mm-hmm.
But this is going right past here. They normally don't come past here anyway. Ding, 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 ding. All right. Let's go to the Quran. Now, what we had last week was we received instructions, healing, guidance, and mercies. Allah's bounty and mercy is better than riches for some reason. What was sent down is lawful. Allah is full of good things, so why lie about him? So
this is Surah 10, right?
Continuing,
yes.
Chapter 10, and it's sentence number 61. I was just thinking the name of this thing is it Jonah? Jonah.
Yes,
the name
yeah.
of this
Surah Yunus.
Yeah.
Now, 61 says, we see everything. Now, it refers to, and this is the funny thing, 99% of all translators refer to an atom. Now, okay, just as an explanation, I know I'm always explaining it every week, but there's always new people, that's why I'm explaining it. What I do is I take the Quran, I take a sentence, and I go and I prune it, and I take only the essence of it. I percolate it, and I say, okay, sometimes a sentence will be 3, 4, 5 lines, and I will bring it down to 1. I'm just taking what is important. I leave out all the, and Allah sees everything and is aware of you to do and what you do. All this I leave out. So sentence number 61. And Rob, yeah, you've got it brilliant. Can you bring up 61 to show, just to give an example of what it is? So here you see you have 3 lines, or even more lines in Yusuf Ali, and I'm putting this down to 3 words. We see everything. Whereas, the Arabic talks about, the original Quran talks about a whole lot of things, but in my eyes, it boils down to we see everything. Now, the funny thing is, it's the weight of an atom, the way it is being translated today. But if you take this daratin and look at the word itself in a dictionary or something, you will see it's just a corn. So it makes a lot more sense if they say the smallest corn or something than an atom.
Yeah, because they didn't know about atoms, right?
Number one, they didn't know about atoms, and it's not even the smallest particle, you see. So it's wrong either way. And this is, I want to point out, this is the danger what Muslims are doing, that they are attaching themselves to science, and they're using a scientific word like atom, not realizing that as we progress, we're getting more and more precise, and therefore we know now that I grew up that the smallest particle was an atom. And of course, there was a lot of research being done, and this changed, and so now it's no longer there. So this is wrong in every which way. Sorry, Mustafa, I talked over you.
Yeah, no, the word they use of an atom, right? I just wanted to show the Arabic as well, the word. I share the screen 1 second. The screen. There we go. So, they kind of like translate.
Make it bigger. That's not so easy to see. Oh, okay. You're doing it in Arabic.
Yeah, so it's the Arabic, right? So it says the word, and then there's the tiny, they kind of insert of an atom. So the word is zarahi. So, if you actually look up the word zarahi, 1 second. That's a girl's name, or if you can. Anyway, I'll just stop sharing the screen. But the word they use here is zarahi, or zarati. But I just don't know. Okay, the word they use for an atom, and the translation says the weight of an atom, and this one, the weight miqdal atom in the earth and not the heavens were not smaller than that and not greater than, but the record clear. This is so weird. It's so weird. Even the Arabic is very weird in itself.
Is anybody looking at this in the chat? You're doing that atheist thing. This is so funny, this guy. Why is it anything to create? I mean, this is so weird, this conversation. You just want attention, and oh boy, this is so funny. There's always that Asian impressed with rifles that she always... Oh God, I wish I didn't have to do the show. This is so much fun watching this. This is so great. I saw somewhere that he says that atheists are intellectually bankrupt or something like this. No, intellectually childish. Here it is. Why are you atheists so intellectually childish, for fuck's sakes?
Well, he's welcome to come on here and show us. Or we can stay in the comments and make unsubstantiated personal opinions.
Okay, sentence number 62. Let me go back to here. Sentence number 62. Friends of Allah. Oh, okay. Now, again, this is not what it says, all right? This is my, the essence of what it says there. Then in 63, I've whittled it down to one single word, which is believers. And then sentence 64 says, will be okay in both lives. In other words, this life and the afterlife. And again, this is one of the important sentences in the Quran. Allah's words can't be changed. And this is what Rob always points out, that this is something that we need to point out before we go and talk about the inheritance era, that we first need to point out Allah's words can't be changed. Okay, that's it. You can't change them. And if you accept this, well, then you've got a problem.
But haven't Allah's words been changed before?
Yeah, come on, of course. I mean, I've got to. Where's my book? I'm just looking at this book because now it's. Oh shit! Oh here, it's out in German now, where Dr. Dan Brubaker has demonstrated using 20 examples. I mean, half the book is just him saying, well, I don't really know all this stuff, and this is just a layman's approach. This is not the proper academic approach. I'm just sort of superficially, jumping up and down there and just giving. And then bloody well, he shows the text and he shows exactly what has been changed, where and what has been added, what has been manipulated, what has been deleted, what has been replaced. And he shows in great detail everything that is wrong with all these different manuscripts. But half the book he spends saying, well, no, this is not like really so serious and I can go a lot deeper. And how deep are you going to go? You show the manuscript and you can show that it does not have the word Allah in there and somebody wrote it in tiny on top just as an insert. I mean, what more do you need to show? The same way as I always show, I think it's 39.101 or something, where it says in the 1924 edition of the Quran that we have today, in the Asim recitation version, that they were not Muslims. And then you go back to the Tashkent version and you see they were Muslims. That is the opposite. So it's not just that they have omitted something or, changed a dot or a comma or the placement of a word or used a synonym or something. No, these are opposites. And of course these words have been changed. There's thousands of differences. And this is where, I must admit, Hatun and Dr. J. Smith, they are amazingly active in this topic at the moment, where they have actually physically bought 30 different versions of the Quran. And they have assembled a team. I don't know how they finance this. A team that is going through each word in Arabic, in Arabic versions of the Quran, each word and checking if it's identical in all the different texts. And already they say they have found thousands of differences in all these texts. So I don't think anybody has ever done an in-depth analysis like this. And I mean, this is going to totally kill Islam, really. It's just a pity that these are Christians doing it, because a lot of Muslims will just reject this. So,
yeah. And what's funny is that even the Islamic narrative itself has abrogated verses too. So that's Allah
Yeah, but the
changing.
funny thing is, some Muslims say no. This concept of abrogation is just a theoretical concept that hasn't been applied. This was something that happened 1,000 years ago, but it was never used since then. It was never really that the Quran makes one statement that later on gets abrogated. Um, which it says. I mean, this is what the Quran says. This is what the Hadith say. This is what it says. And there's actually, there are entire tables of these sentences where Islamic scholars are saying this sentence was abrogated by this. This is exactly what you are saying. But a lot of Muslims are saying, no, it doesn't exist. So, I don't know. But then the funny thing is the abrogation they accept is, for example, with alcohol. Muslims will say, yeah, alcohol was initially considered to be partially beneficial, and then gradually they were weaned off the alcohol. Why is that? Why would a God first say, no, alcohol is okay, and then later on change its mind and say, no, it's not? Well, there's also a form of abrogation and a contradiction. So this makes no sense. So 65, all power and honor belongs to Allah, who hears and knows everything. And that is such a dangerous statement. And this comes back and bites them whenever you go later on and you discuss free will and things like that. And then a very familiar statement in 66, something we've heard a couple of times already: everything belongs to Allah. And then 67 goes into the usual mantra: He made signs for you day and night. Then again, everything belongs to Allah. They said He had a son. Don't bullshit. And then, if you do, you lose. I don't understand the sort of the flow, whether this is just the rhyming again, or whether this is contents, or I don't know.
I think they're referring to the Jesus figure as well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, definitely they're referring to Jesus. And let's look at the, can I share the rhyme, the Arabic?
Yeah, but Mustafa, one thing that we need to point out here, they are referring to Jesus, but not the Jesus as in the Jesus of the son of Yahweh, but the son of Allah.
Allah, as in like the ultimate, the bigger.
So, but this is the funny story. They say, and it says in the Quran, they say that He, God Allah, took a son. Now, in the Quran, it says that Allah cannot have a son because He doesn't have a partner.
Yeah.
And now here they're saying, yes, He took a son. So this is quite weird. Let me see if I can get Rob's in here. Rob, did you do this one? 69, if you do, you lose.
Yep.
Okay, go one before.
168.
68. Okay, Mustafa, you read this. You're better at this.
Okay. Wait, one sec. So 68. They have said Allah has taken a son. Exalted is He. He is the one freed of need. To Him belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth. You have no authority for this claim. To you say about Allah that which you do not know.
So it says here, Allah, not the God of the Jews, not the God of the Christians, but Allah has taken a son. And then the funny thing is, exalted is He. Now, to who is the He? The Son or Allah?
Yeah, like this is very confusing. This is sentence 68, correct?
Yes.
68. Yeah, this translation says, they say Allah has offspring, glory be to Him. He is the self-sufficient. I think they kind of add the grammar there, right? So they add the grammar, like, glory be to Him in the corpus with exclamation mark. And also the Arabic, you say, yeah, okay. So yeah, basically it's I've heard this before, actually. I've heard this before. Okay, can I open the Arabic? One sec.
Because for me, this is very confusing that it says Allah has taken a son, where in other places it says very clearly it's the God of the Jews or something. But here it's not. Here it's actually Allah, and I've never seen this anywhere else in the Quran, that actually Allah is being associated with the sun. This is quite
Yeah,
quite
so
weird
they,
for me.
the translation is they say Allah has offspring, and the Sahih International says Allah has taken a son. So they say qalu an atakhaza Allah Allahu wal walad waladan. So
That's the sun, yeah.
yeah, that's the son, and then glory be to him, subhanallah. So he is a self-sufficient, and to him belongs to whatever. So basically, a son. So they specifically specify a son. But I think right here, like you said, it's just a rhyming scheme that it may, because ta'lamun, it says right? It ends with ta'lamun, and then the previous sentence 67 for the people who listen, yasma'un, that they use 67.
Oh,
Yes,
okay, yeah.
and then you have ta'amalun. It's like mala ta'alun. And then the following, yuflihun. They will not succeed. So I think this is mainly what I also will keep showing this. It's mainly just a rhyme that's, happening here. Because you see, even in the last three words here, Allahi al-kaziba la yuflihun. So, Allah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the it's more the rhyme that's stressed here, but otherwise the sentences themselves don't follow a flow necessarily.
So for me, this is very weird. I've never seen that anywhere, that Allah has a son and then the rest is, well, it's obviously referring to Allah, but the way that it says this, the way that it is phrased is more according to the rhyme than the content. So
yeah.
Anyway, don't bullshit. In other words, don't say things about Allah that are not true. And if you do, you lose. And again, this concept, they will return to us and will punish blasphemers severely. And then I'll put here, I don't know if you can read this, with mercy, because this is an all-merciful God, but he will punish blasphemers severely. Now, to blaspheme means to say something negative about God, which is being transmitted or transferred or associated with Muhammad the same way. So the funny thing is you can blaspheme Muhammad, and this is going to be punished severely by this merciful God, because somebody is saying something bad about him, because blasphemy is saying something negative about a God. Now, instead of taking this on board and saying, oops, what have I done wrong? Maybe I can improve on this. Maybe I can do something better. He punishes those that point out something is wrong. Now, where do I know this kind of behavior from? Isn't it the despotic tyrants and the fascists and the, I don't know, dictators who do this kind of thing? If you point out to Kim Jong-un that he's made a mistake, is he going to say, I wonder if I can do better? Or is he going to kill the guy? Well, you take your pick. So it's funny that here this God behaves exactly like a despotic tyrant.
Yeah, I think it's also indicative of what you call narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where and this is a common trait in not only cult leaders, but also, like you stated, dictators, where you point out a mistake, they are actually consumed. Any form of criticism, they're consumed by rage. And they wish the worst, and then they would do the worst on their enemies.
Yeah. Okay, now we get a whole section on Noah. Should we carry on? I mean, you guys need to tell me, because this is now... Should we stop here and take it for next week, or should we continue?
I think we can continue. If there's anything else, nothing else.
Rob, what would you say? Well, we want to do 2 videos tonight.
Oh, right. Okay.
Up to you guys. You can do a couple more if you want to, maybe 1 or 2.
Well, the thing is, if we start now with Noah, we need to go down to here. We need to go to 74, and then it continues. I actually think this is a good point to stop,
sure.
Because then we have another 20, which will go all the way up to Moses and all that. So let's stop here. Anyway, you can see I did my homework this time. And then we will... Welcome to Nick of Time. Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show.
Hello, good morning, Nick.
Hello, Mr. Mustafa.
Something with your mic there, Nick. There's a bit of,
Hello?
Oh, no, it's better.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you go. I think
yeah.
your mic was a little bit. It seems better now.
Yeah.
No, I think the automatic gain was overdoing.
Ah, that's what is it. Okay.
Okay, the next segment is going to be where we have a theme, and the theme today is going to be, we're going to be looking at some videos that Mr. Speakers... Are you going to do it or should I?
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, so Stops gave us these videos. And this is proving that, okay, so the title of this, if you can see it at the bottom there, is quite small. I've made the video a bit bigger. Proving the Quran was sent from God, okay? So I guess the first question before we start the video, we're going to look at this, and you guys just call stop whenever you want to, and I'll stop as well. To me, a proof is something that with an exceptionally high probability of being true or likely to be true. I mean, I think for me, mathematical proofs or a priori proofs, if you like, are probably at the pinnacle of what one would call a proof. But what would you call a proof? So perhaps something like, scientific theory would be as close to a proof as we have. Like I say, mathematical, probably one step up from that. I don't know. What do you guys think about proof? What would you accept as proof? If somebody came to you with a book and said, hey, there's something that this book says that's true. What would you consider? That's proof. Yes, I accept that.
Something that logically follows and can be reproduced in an experiment anywhere it's done, according to theorem. But again, theories in science are also falsifiable as well, meaning they explain, or they might seem right to us now with our limited technology, but can also be changed in the future. But I honestly think that something that you can do with experimentation anywhere in the world. So even if you make a statement, I can prove it here, which includes axioms or mathematical proofs and all that. And beyond reasonable doubt for Mustafa's sake.
No, that's for criminal convictions. Let's leave law out of this for now.
Okay, well, let's have a look now and see if any of this even remotely rises
Rob,
to something.
I just want to say one thing. Do you know that I am actually relaxing on this? Because I used to be quite anal about this word proof and evidence and that. And I'm realizing that a lot of people are not really intending to use it that way. It's the layman's way of using a word which they recognize, which they know, which they are comfortable with, which they intend to mean something like evidence, but they're using it as proof. So I'm not really, climbing down people's throats any longer.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Let's see what they're saying. As we go through it, as I say, I'll just stop it to comment, and you guys do the same. Just shout back.
The moment I opened the Quran, even from the first page that I read, something inside me just said that this is the truth. You cannot deny that this is the truth.
Okay, so we're 9 seconds in, and this is the first thing. So he read on page 1 of the Quran, and something inside says to him that you cannot deny this is true. He hasn't even read a quarter of the book, but the first page. And this is, of course, we've seen this with other people as well, right? The brain is primed. They're looking for some answer. And if some words resonate in a certain order, people often go, that's amazing. It's like, we're primed to look for the things that match what we're looking for. We're pattern seeking, and if we see a pattern or something that we already resonate with, then we take it to mean something greater than it actually is. I mean, if we go read the first page of the Quran, right? If we take it as Surah 1, it's just talking about, I think it's the 7 verses, isn't it? Stops. You've been over this at length many times.
Well, the thing is that the first one is contradicted by the last one, so it shows, number one, it's not a God, and number two, if you read the first line, it's not a God anyway talking to us.
Stops,
so
just for your
name.
Yeah, can you just bring those up? Because people will obviously doubt what you say. I mean, you know this so well, but remember that we have viewers here who'll be skeptical of your claims. You're just making a claim by their lights. So if you want to share your screen or indeed just read those 2 verses, you don't have to read all 7. But this is the first, let's just call it the first page, if you like, as in the first words that appear
Let me
in the
just
Quran
go
is supposed to.
Yeah, and
drop
as
one.
Dobbs brings that up, I just want to mention his statement is kind of like R. Kelly saying, I read one statement, Allah, and I knew I was innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just the first sentence, okay?
Make it a lot bigger there, Stops, if you can.
Okay, I'm a little bit lost at the moment because this is
You are sharing all your
covering
tabs
everything
there.
because it's in the same one.
Just be careful if you're sharing tabs there as well.
Okay, I'll need to set this up. No, I took the tab out because it's
I
covering
mean, I can go to
everything.
it as well if you like. Let's just see. I
So here we go.
can bring up. You got it there?
And now I can make it bigger as much as you
Okay.
want.
There we go. That's good enough. Yeah.
So this is chapter 1, sentence number 1. Now what it tells us is not I am God and I'm telling you, but it says in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. So the whole Quran, the first sentence says that this is somebody else talking for someone else. So this is already hearsay.
Mm.
So this is the first sentence. Now, if you go to, actually, I should put here 7. The other statement that the other claim that I made is that okay, here it says in the first sentence, it says, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful, the most gracious, the most merciful. So I think we understand what it means, like really, really merciful. But the funny thing is, in the last sentence, it says, and I'm not going to go through the corpus here, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those who is not wrath and who go not astray. In other words, here, look at the Sahih International, not of those who have evoked anger or of those who are astray. In other words, the all-merciful God creates people who are going to make him angry. So how can you be angry at something that you yourself created while being merciful? You can't. So they already in the first 7 sentences, the first chapter, you already have contradictions. And it says here, dear God, please guide us to the straight path. How is this a God talking to himself? So this God is supposed to create people, guide them to where he wants them, and then he gets angry with them. That doesn't make sense. This is totally ludicrous. Anybody who reads this will think, no, come on, this can't be a God. This is some silly kid or something.
But the guy in the video didn't think that.
Well, no, you see, this is the problem. This is exactly the problem. If you go and, you see, I always say, if somebody else tells you what the Quran tells you, what it says, you're going to be, in a much more positive state than if you go and read it yourself. If you read the Quran, you are an atheist. There's no way about it. There's no way that you can change this.
Okay, let's carry on.
It was so convincing. It was as if Allah was speaking directly.
Okay, that's the key point, right? We've heard this before, and there was this guy that somebody pointed to me a while back, a couple of years back, actually, this white guy in America who was some like professor or whatever. I can't remember his name. Stops, you might remember. He's standing at a podium, and he said he was reading this, and then he came upon this verse about angels or something, and this really, quote unquote, spoke to him. Right, and that for him was like a catalyst for believing the Quran. And it's the same thing here, right? It's like it's speaking to him. Well, that's a subjective claim. How do we establish that what it says is true? Somebody like this, of course, is not looking at it like that. They're reading this and they read some words and they go, oh, that resonates with me. I like this. It has an emotional appeal. And they start to believe it. Not do they interrogate and go, how do we establish it's true? The mind is not thinking like that. So somebody like this is easily taken in by some words that appeal to him in this case.
And this is coming from a background of no religiosity at all. Like I considered myself an agnostic at the time. It's sent by Allah. It is sent by Allah. There's no other explanation.
I'd like to
go on. Yeah, please.
Yeah, no, I was
go
just
ahead.
saying we spent the last month explaining what the other explanations are, didn't we?
Yeah, well, we talked about whether Muhammad was, where it came from, as you say, right? There's the different options. But he suggests that it came from Allah, obviously through Muhammad, as you quite rightly point out. And there's no other option. A, how did you establish it came from Allah? And B, how did you establish there's no other option? How did you rule out everything else? What's called in, that people often refer to as the impossibility of the contrary. In other words, if you rule out everything else, whatever remains, if you can establish, especially if it's a dichotomy, it's either the case that God exists or it's the case that God does not exist. That's a true dichotomy. If you can show that it's impossible for God not to exist, then it follows logically that God must exist if it's a true dichotomy. But in his case, how did he establish that it's the only possible option or answer? How did he establish that?
Well, we're only 28 seconds in, but...
I guarantee he won't tell you. I've already watched this, right? But this is somebody who's taken with this, who's, like I say, has read some words. Some words are appealed to him in certain senses. It depends, of course, which translation he read. And also, he hasn't read the entire book. Wait till he gets further on like we have, and he won't make head of tail of it. He'll have to go look at tafsirs. He'll have to go look at other people's opinions to try and make sense of what's in the book. So he'll cherry pick a few things, go, this appeals to me. If we had to bring this guy onto the show here and open up some verses and say to him, what do you think this means? And you're not allowed to go look elsewhere. Hey, you can read the first 5 or 10 before and the first or the next 5 or 10 after, and then see if you can work out what this means. Somebody like this would be utterly clueless. They'd have no idea. They're sitting there scratching their head. They will have to go look somewhere else.
Yeah, and what's funny is that they always come across, like they always say that, I used to be atheist or agnostic. It's like, then you start doubting it. It's like this is a very popular theme. Like, I used to be non-religious and then I became religious, trying to show the journey,
Yeah, and all it shows is that atheists and agnostics can be equally bad critical thinkers or lack critical thinking, just like religious people. Right? It's not exclusive to religious people that they're the only people who don't think critically. And it's something that one needs to develop. It's not something that's natural to most of us. I had to develop, you guys did, right? I didn't used to do that, and it's taken me time and years, and I'm still not the best at it. And I listen to people regularly, and I go, that's something I can use. I learn from other people who are better than me. And from you guys, sometimes you guys will say, and I go, in my brain, I go, I'll remember that for next time. I might have missed that or whatever. But it's a process, it's a learning process. And somebody like this clearly hasn't done this. Or if he has, he certainly isn't explaining it here. And if you had to have him on here, as I say, then we could interrogate as to whether, what were his reasons? How did he establish all of this?
I was once in an interfaith dialogue in which the MC was a pastor, a minister in the church. A young boy, Hafiz, recited some verses of the Quran from memory. When the boy sat down, the MC got up and he said, we as Christians, when we hear the Quran being recited, know that this is not the word of man. This cannot be the word of man.
So how did a Christian establish that? These are just like anecdotal things from people. We'd have to see who these people are and then ask them, how did you establish it wasn't from God? Were you just lulled by the melody of somebody repeating something? What was it that claims that it couldn't have been made by humans, especially if you're non-Muslim? And if you are so taken, how come you aren't Muslim?
So he's claiming that, they read it out in front of Christians and they
some
said...
Some boy recited some verses and the Christian was just taken in by this, as in like this couldn't have been from...
So this is the kind of evidence which you call hearsay evidence, because, the person there, he cannot in no way, shape or form verify the statement at all, that whether he actually said it or not. So this is like a third person saying some boy recited it in front of him and he happens to see it. So there's no way we can verify it. Well, at this point, the viewer has no choice but to take this person's word. and there's no other evidence that actually.
Yeah, but it's also it's like it's very much like aesthetics, right? It's somebody's personal opinion. This is not a fact of the matter. This is somebody expressing their opinion about something. So it's entirely anecdotal anyway. And where is the evidence for this? Again, remember, we're supposed to be proving the Quran. What are we getting at the moment? I was thinking about it earlier today. People's opinion. Stops and I like watching videos. Some of these guys that do auditing, right? And they're going, film a police station, the police will come out or whatever the case is. And it's astounding how badly trained or uneducated or uninformed the police are on the laws they're supposed to be enforcing. So people are standing on public property and they're filming whatever they can. And in the US and the UK, there's almost no law against that, doing that sort of stuff. And these guys will just make stuff up and they will give their opinion. And I was thinking about this. All we hear with this, and it's the same here, is just people's opinions. And, we've heard the saying as perhaps blunt as it is, opinions are like arseholes. Everybody has one and most of them stink. Why? Because it's just an opinion. The ones that we pay attention to are the ones that provide an argument and we can go, oh, there's some sort of reliability that we can accept that that's likely to be true. Otherwise, this is just an opinion. Why does he believe it, right? That's always the question. Why did you say that?
And then an opinion is, cannot be used for evidence. And even a professional wrestler told me an opinion is the lowest form of human intelligence. Like a professional wrestler knows that. So, you can kind of see like that's, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. So we've had two opinions, one that got taken by this and liked it. And then somebody who wasn't a Muslim who thought this couldn't have come from God, but presumably is still not a Muslim already. So one would then have to question, what's going on there.
And
exactly.
Not only that, like he specifically said Christian, right? So it's kind of like,
He said pastor, but we can assume it's Christian. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can continue with it. Yeah.
I think that an opinion, if it is based on facts and data, can be totally valid. But
expert opinion, yes. Expert opinion.
But even then, I maintain that an opinion covers a whole bandwidth. It's only once you start substantiating it that it becomes valuable or not. If you can't, it's an idea. If you can't substantiate it, if you have nothing to base it on, I can ignore it. This is the same thing as making a claim. A claim can be very valid or it can be a false claim. It depends on how you substantiate it. And the same thing goes is for an opinion. I can have an opinion. I think, in my opinion, everything that I throw up will come down. Now, that is just an opinion. But I can substantiate it and show and demonstrate that this is actually based on facts and data. So I can do that. But it's still an opinion. It's just what comes afterwards that makes it valuable or not.
And then he said it sends shivers up my spine or up our spine when we hear the Quran being recited. And this is nothing new.
On one occasion, the Prophet ﷺ goes to the Haram, to Mecca, and he begins to recite Surah Al-Najm out loud before everybody. وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى. He continues on reciting this beautiful and very powerful in meaning surah until he reaches the last section of the surah. فَاسْجُدُوا لِلَّهِ وَاعْبُدُوا. The narration, it mentions that after the Prophet ﷺ recited this verse,
I want to ask, is this powerful verse that he was reading the one about camel urine?
No. You know which one is this? This is such... okay, so this is Surah At-Najm, is where he also said the satanic verses also arrive as well. Did this man forget the satanic verses incident?
Well, I don't think the people who were supposedly listening, if this event happened, would have been any the wiser. If let's just take everything they said at face value, what's likely to happen, right? When you start, if this is being, recited in the way that Muslims do today, if that were the case, it's got a hypnotic melody to it, right? People are easily hypnotized by things like this. And of course, as we've seen and we talked about in previous shows, social conditioning is a very powerful tool. If there's people that, and especially his followers, because you're going to say in a moment that the followers and even the non-believers all sort of bow down. But we've seen this being tested in the modern day. People get into a lift and they all face backwards. and they're all actors, and the person they're testing faces forward. As the lift goes up, eventually he turns around and faces backwards as well, because everybody else is doing it. So the power of social conditioning is extremely powerful. And let's say all of this happened, and most of the followers, bend down. The people, especially if they're in the minority, look around and go, shit, maybe there's something going on here that we're unaware of. Let's do the same. There's a lot of power in this sort of social conditioning, that sort of behavior. And humans are very gullible at following along with that sort of thing. Same with the meter stick or whatever it is, right? There's they give somebody something to measure. I think it's something to measure, whatever it is. I mean, Stops can correct me on
it's just the length of some lines.
Length of some lines, that's right. And the person who kind of knows that it's wrong or whatever the case is, ends up going along with what everybody else said, and what they're giving is the incorrect information. So if we're taking this all at face value, if all of this happened as he said, and the non-believers bow down, that's one very powerful explanation as to why people do these sort of things. I wouldn't do it, and most of us wouldn't, but some of them do, especially in those days, right? They all used to bow down, so it's nothing big to bow down.
And keep in mind, the last statement, 5362, that Surah An-Najm says, so prostrate to Allah and worship. So, basically it just says just prostrate, right? So prostrate to Allah. And then someone followed, and then the very verse just do the sajda. So, and Allah was already part of the pantheon of gods of the Arabian pagans. So if you look at the narrative itself, they wouldn't have a problem with bowing down to Allah specifically. The only difference was just associating partners. That's it. So to Allah, and then they happen to just bow down.
If you go back to the Nabateans, you already see this, correct?
Yes, exactly. So Allah was already existent in part of the pantheon. So this would have not been a very big deal at all.
Doorknob Head is an instigator, rebel, and revolutionist.
All right, let's carry on.
All of the people in the haram, the believers, with the Prophet ﷺ, with the mushrikeen that were opposed to him.
Can you just wait? Is everybody aware what he means when he says the haram?
Yes, the haram was basically the area, right? So it's the forbidden gathering place. So
exactly, it's the area around the Kaaba. This is something that most people are not aware of, that this is still already referred to being the forbidden place, because nobody is allowed in there except Muslims. And this is why it's the haram. It's where non-believers are not allowed. It is forbidden for non-believers. So this is the area around the Kaaba.
So how could they have done it? Is that the point you're making? How could there have been non-believers
No,
there?
I'm just pointing out that what he is referring to is the word haram, which is forbidden, and he's calling that because it is the forbidden mosque, which is the area around the Kaaba. Just so that people understand what he's talking about, because he's mentioned these a couple of times.
Yeah.
They fell down in sujood before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They couldn't help it. They realized firsthand, they experienced it. It is the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
How did they establish that? Just because people bow down doesn't mean that they think it's true. Some people, as I've explained, can do this because of social conditioning. It's something that they do. It's part of their culture is to bow down, whether it's to Allah or to some other god or whatever the case is. How did you establish that they bowed down because they thought it was true and not bow down because other people were doing so, or there was some pressure or whatever the case is? We don't know. You're assuming that they heard these words by Muhammad and just thought that it was so magnificent and bowed down. Well, that's obviously not critical thinking, is it? Because we're going to go, how do you establish this is true? You can have some nice words that flow out of somebody's mouth. Let's again be very charitable and assume that all of this is the case. How do we establish that it's true? Not that it sounds good or that they bow down because there's some other reason. You haven't established that. But this is, remember, they're supposed to be proving the Quran is sent by God. Have they even got close to giving a substantial argument? We're not even at the proof stage yet. They're not even giving a substantial argument. What are we hearing? Stories, anecdotal hearsay, and somebody else's opinion. And we're 2 minutes into this 8-minute video. So a quarter of the way through, and we haven't remotely got to proving. But to the gullible Muslim ear, this will sound like gold, right? Because they already believe everything about it. So to hear other people doing this just confirms the biases they already have towards it. Their brain are not going to go, well, how do we establish this is true? Because they already believe it. So any evidence that confirms it, and I say evidence in inverted commas, any stories they hear that confirms it, they're just going to believe it. And it's going to go, wow, after that, my faith is even stronger. Well done.
But hasn't this bowing down always in the history of mankind been a sign of submission? Hasn't that always been the case?
Yes, proskinesis used to exist since the times of ancient Persians, I believe. Like there was the concept of, and prostration itself has been practiced for centuries and centuries.
The ancient Egyptians, Sumerians, didn't they always use this expression to throw oneself in the dust? Hasn't this? I don't know if I'm right here, but I think I've read this in the connection with kings and emperors and things like that. People always threw themselves in the dust before him, or something like this. So I think there's nothing special here.
Yeah. Can we also see the imagery and everything, right? So this is obviously professionally filmed and edited with the music in the background. And this is, again, to lull the people. So if you're a Muslim, you're going to love this because this is like playing music. It's like praying. It's like chanting, right? It's designed specifically not to have you think critically. Unfortunately, what we are doing is not what this video is for. So obviously it's going to be problematic for us because none of this is effective for us, but it is effective for those whose brains are not thinking critically.
The Quran incapacitates creation from producing anything like it. You cannot imitate the Quran. You can't produce something like the Quran. And in fact, in 3 different places in the Quran, Allah challenges creation to produce something like the Quran.
Go on, guys. You guys all go first on this one.
Yeah, I want to... didn't Joseph Smith recreate Mormonism?
And even, what do you call it? Abdullah Samir came up with Surah Faqaf. And it was exactly like the way the Quran, it was hilarious. It was amazing. Then there was Surah Corona that was produced. And there was Surah Atheism as well. Surah Atheism that exists in the internet. And
Mustafa, that's a grown adult. I'm talking about a 14-year-old kid named Joseph Smith.
Yeah.
Made his own version of an Abrahamic faith.
Wow.
Yeah, Mormonism. That's what it is.
Joseph Smith. Yes.
Yeah, he's 14 years old.
He was 14? Really?
Yeah, when he came up with his theories.
That's not the Quran.
That's not the Quran. Now, keep in mind, that's not relevant because keep in mind what the challenge by the Quran is produce something like it, produce a verse exactly like it. Now,
I'll produce the same thing and I'm only 23. I'll rewrite what they have in there.
Now, here's no. The challenge is to produce something like it. So all you need to do is just take the Vash version and compare it to the Hafs version and Bob's your uncle, you're done.
Yeah. And the thing is with this challenge has no criteria behind it to measure, and it gives them the perfect opportunity to shift the goalpost. Whenever someone says, even if you bring something like Surah Corona, they're like, oh, this is not proper, this is like, they won't consider it. Or even if you bring like surahs that were taken out of the Quran, there were 2 surahs that were actually taken out of the Quran. And then they'll say, no, that's not the Quran. And then you have dua books as well. Sahifa Sajjadiyah that I talked about on this show as well. That's a dua book. That is like called a sister Quran. That's something written by a human who was the great grandson of Muhammad. He wrote that entire thing. He produced something like the Quran as well. So,
and how pissed would people be if I mentioned satanic verses? Rushdie.
It's not exactly like Satanic Verses, the novel is very different from the incident, though it does refer to the incident itself. But yes, the incident does refer to Ghanari, the cranes themselves. So, that is a verse that's produced by Satan. Satan produced a verse. So that challenge has been, but here's the problem. the general Muslim population will still say, "Oh, it's the only way to answer this challenge is copy the Quran and present it just like it is," and that's the only way you can succeed in this challenge, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's very easy. All you need to do is bring something like Jingle Bells. What the hell is this?
Okay, well, there's three main problems. Well, at least three problems I see here. Okay, one is, as you guys have pointed out, it's the shifting of the goalposts. If you ask somebody what's the evidence the Quran is from God, and the response, or one of the responses is, hey, it provides this challenge, bring a surah like it, that's shifting the goalposts. That's saying, hey, the onus is now on you to make something like it. No, hang on a moment.
Burden of proof.
The claim is, you guys say this is from God, demonstrate it's from God. And if part of your demonstration is, I've got to do something to disprove it, that is a shifting of the goalpost. That's number one. Number two,
burden of proof, not goalpost.
A burden of proof as well. So that's even better. It's the burden of proof has now been shifted to me to disprove this book. No, you've got to demonstrate it. So providing this is just, as you say, shifting the burden of proof to me. I don't need to accept this, but and I don't have to, and I shouldn't. You guys have got to prove it. But the other thing that happens is, if you're in doubt about this, is make a surah, produce a surah like it. Nowhere in the Quran or the Hadith, as far as I can tell, and you guys can correct me or add to this, is there the criteria by which this can be done. And even if there was, obviously then we would have had 1400 years for people to meet the criteria. But I'm unaware of anywhere where there's a set criteria that says, because the next thing that should be in this book after this, the very next verse is, and here is what I lay out for you as the criteria by which you could bring a surah or attempt to, even if, and the very next verse, which is the third problem, if you go to the very next verse, 224 in this case, but if you do not, and you never will be able to. So to me, this is an unfalsifiable proposition. If the book is telling you that it's impossible, then it's not an actual challenge. It's like me saying to you, hey, all you have to do is prove that 1 + 1 does not equal 2, and you never will. Are you even going to attempt to a challenge like that? Obviously not. Right? So three things are here. One is that it's shifting the burden of proof / the goalpost. Number two is there's no criteria. Number three, the very next sentence, at least in this particular one, in 223, says you'll never be able to do it anyway. So I think we can dismiss this as in an unfalsifiable claim that isn't even there for us to do anyway. Because some Muslims say it's not for us, it's only for other people, or if it's Arab speaking, or whatever the case is.
And yeah, it's also like the example itself is kind of, in other words, a double bind too, where it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. So the person who even accepts this challenge is just doomed to fail.
Yep. All right, let's move on.
We can't hear anything.
Yeah, we can't hear this person.
Sorry. Let me go back.
It's not like I want to listen to him, but like we got it for the video.
Yeah, I forgot to tick the box there. My apologies. Tick the audio. There we go.
Quran. When they couldn't meet this challenge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the challenge a bit more easier. فَأْتُوا بِعَشْرِ سُوَرٍ. Then at least bring 10 chapters, like the chapters of the Quran can.
And given that they cannot produce even 10 surah of the Quran, he minimizes that challenge to even produce 1 surah of the Quran. And we know that 1 surah of the Quran is as short as just a few words.
The shortest chapter is Surah Al-Kawthar. It consists of 3 verses. In it, there's around 10 words. The scholars, they say, even in this short surah, there are 6 words out of the 10 that are not mentioned anywhere else in the Quran except in this surah. That's just...
Okay, so my question is, why is it not 7 words? Why is it not 10 words that aren't mentioned anywhere else? Hey, this is the creator of the universe. Could we make this even better? This is just something else separate to this. Hey, I could imagine that this is such a unique verse that you could have 10 words that are unique and not used anywhere else in the Quran, but you've only got 6. I don't think that's the best that could be. And 6 out of 10 isn't the best, is it? To me, it's not.
Did he just say Surah Dawah?
I think so. 3
Dawah?
verses.
Dawah has 129 verses.
Exactly. No.
That's chapter 9.
Well, yeah, you can read the Arabic there. So
Okay, no, inna a'tayna. Oh, this is Surah Qasr. Dumbass, can't even. Just give me a second. Surah Qasr
But he's
is.
saying 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? They highlighting these words
Qasr
here.
is
6 that don't appear anywhere else, as if that's magnificent.
That's
So hang on,
108.
like I say.
Yeah, it's like the one with the 3 verses only. So it's the 108. So
No, there are more. There's more than one.
yes, just 3 verses in this
There's
chapter.
there's more than one chapter with 3 sentences.
Oh wow, there are. No, there's more than one. So how is this the shortest chapter then?
Well, exactly.
It doesn't matter.
I was
Maybe you
gonna
got it
say
wrong.
that. But the other thing is, you know what is a joke? Is that somebody, I think it was Sources or Dawah Man or somebody, who came up with the idea that this thing contains 42 rhetorical devices. And what he said is a rhetorical device is that one of the words is in the past tense. This is a rhetorical device.
Or was it not the future tense or the present tense? You see, ultimately, whatever these quote unquote rhetorical devices are, they're all human constructed. Nowhere in the Quran does it say, here's the criteria by which you could attempt to meet this quote unquote challenge. No, what humans have done is gone, let's make stuff up and call it some criteria. And if we add enough of these together, it'll be impossible for anybody to bring something, because you could always say, it didn't meet that 42nd criteria. Right? It's a nice way to shield it from ever having to be met. This is why it should be rejected out of hand. I mean, this is just one of the most ridiculous claims, I think, and there's so many ridiculous claims in the Quran, but this seems to be at least one of the most ridiculous ones. And Muslims will trot this out as if this is some sort of amazing challenge. And all we have to do is look at this. And
you know what? Like the words, he says these 6 words are not mentioned anywhere else. So inna a'tayna kal qasr, in the first sentence, a'tayna kal qasr, it just means we have given you abundance. What's so special about these 2 words? We have given you abundance. That's what it translates to. And
this specific version of a word is not mentioned anywhere else in the Quran. I have not even checked it. This is this claim. I don't know if this is true.
I don't know if this is true, because this is this would have to be checked, because when you translate it, it just means, we have given you abundance. And then he says fasalli. Fasalli just means so pray.
Yeah. I also got a quick question. I was trying to get I was also, whenever they bring up these quotes and stuff, I was trying to get them referenced and checked as well. Do you know which exactly which quote they're exactly talking about, or chapter? Because again, after Muhammad Hijab, I want to be able to back check everything just in case we want to fact check it.
Yeah, no, I'll get back to that. But yeah, so the last 2 words, inna shani'aka huwal abtar. So shani'aka just means your enemy. He is the one that's cut off. Huwal abtar. So it's not really what's so special about these specific words? If one just translates these words, that's what it means. These are very simple terms, that your enemy is the one cut off, or so pray and sacrifice. That's pray and sacrifice is existent in almost most theologies already. So what's so special about these words? So
he's just saying they don't appear elsewhere in the Quran, right? You'd have to look through the whole Quran. We don't even need to go there. That's just a vacuous claim that he'd have to defend himself. But the claim is that there's 6 words here that, according to him, appear nowhere else in the Quran. He'd have to give evidence of that. It's not your job to go and read the whole Quran to see if these words appear elsewhere. But again, a much simpler critique against this. Otherwise, you're presenting yourself with a heavy burden if you're going to now go and look through the whole Quran to see if that's true. I mean, you can if you want to. But just go, well, hang on, how come it's only 6? If there's 10 words, why is 10 is better than 6, isn't it? Or if you're saying less words is better, well, then why not only 1? 6 is just an arbitrary number, and you could be on either side of that, and it would be better. So if you take it that less is better, then have less. If you think 10 would be better, then have 10, right? 6 is just a random number. It could have easily have been better either way. Any way you go is better.
Right, yeah. So
why is it only 6?
Yeah, and it's it's kind of a non sequitur too. What's the it doesn't have a good conclusion. The conclusion just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think the bottom line for this is, here's the short surah. There's plenty of things we can say, we have said about this. But essentially, this claim is an unfalsifiable claim. And one of the most, probably, certainly for me, one of the most ridiculous claims that any Muslim can make. And yet they
And
still
yeah,
make it today as if this is something unique. Again, I think it's because they think it's unique. Anybody else like us, we interrogate this sort of thing, and this looks not even mundane. I mean, that would be charitable. I think we'd be giving it far too much credit. It's ridiculously unfalsifiable, and mundane doesn't even begin to describe how silly this is,
and Rob, what's
and how
funny?
falsifiable it is in the
Yeah.
sense of these words, right?
Yeah, and Rob, what's funny is that Inna Atayna Kal Kausar, this is the first. This is the chapter everybody is taught in school, along with Fatiha, Al Kausar, and then the Qul in the Nas, the Qul Huwallahu Ahad. Like, these are the tiny ones that everybody is taught, these specific ones. So there's so I like how he specifically chose something that's common, like that's commonly known to people, but people have not even bothered to read the rest of the Quran. They just know this because there's some attachment to it, because they know it from childhood.
Surah. That's just another example of the miraculous nature of the Quran al-Karim.
How's it miraculous? What part is miraculous specifically about that? The 6 words? Like I said, we can easily debunk that, and I've just done that. What's miraculous? You see, this is how brains are. Their bar for miraculous is so unbelievably low, and even then they trip over it if we just have to show it to them. If they don't see the bar, they just walk over it and think this is amazing. But if you point out the bar, even though it's set down at their ankles, it's still easy to trip over.
How do we know the Quran is divinely sent from God?
How do I know the Quran is divinely sent from God?
In the early or mid 1990s, Australia was very lucky, or the Muslim community was very lucky and fortunate to have a visit by Professor Zaghlul al-Najjar. Subhanallah, I had the chance to transcribe.
Rob, just pause there
one
for a
of his
moment. This guy that they're talking about is such a big fraud, such an idiot. He is not allowed in most countries by now. He is a guy whom I challenged because he said, I have a PhD. And I said, can you show me where your PhD comes from? I wrote to the university and I challenged him. I said, no, this is the university that had to close down because they were selling PhDs. And suddenly, from his homepage, his claim that he has a PhD disappeared. So this Zaghlul Najjar is also the guy who took a certain Mr. Zindani and introduced him to somebody with a lot of money, who happens to be Osama bin Laden, and who then started off this whole scientific miracles thing with Moore and with all the others. So this Zaghlul Najjar is a total asshole. He's such a douchebag. It's amazing. So I'm
Sounds like a
surprised
fraud.
that they even mention him.
He sounds like a Arab Kent Hovind.
But again, here's somebody presumably who's accepted Islam, who doesn't think to look this up, somebody at that time, whenever this happened, who may have had some sort of air of credibility, and they just accept that it's the case. People like this do not ask questions. Here comes somebody that they've heard of, maybe they've seen them on the internet, other people have told them how wonderful it is, and they're a fellow Muslim. Wow, he's got something miraculous to say. But listen to what she says now. Just listen to this.
Rob, just one more thing before you do that. I'm sorry. This is so great. This Nagar said, I am an expert and therefore I can testify that the moon was indeed split. I investigated this, and I can confirm that this actually happened.
Yeah, well, I think that disqualifies him straight away. How can you be an expert on the moon splitting? Yeah.
Lectures, and I basically memorized the scientific miracles that he spoke of.
She memorized this. The word that she should be using is, I should critically analyze these, quote, scientific miracles. What did she do instead? What do most Muslims do? They memorize. They don't critically analyze. Difference between memorize and analyze. That should tell us everything we need to know.
When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فكانت وردة كالدهان. And it was as if it was an oil-painted rose. You know, we didn't know what that meant decades ago, but now we know that when we look up into the sky, the night sky, we can see an oil-painted rose.
Okay, so they're now looking at a nebula which Muslims couldn't have seen in those days and didn't have the technology, and probably if it weren't for people today, would never have had the technology. It would have come thousands of years later. And they're looking at one particular rose-type nebula here. If you go look into the night sky, and I sometimes do astrophotography, you can pick out nebulas of all different colors, depending, again, you can put filters on your camera that you can filter out just the particular light that you want to see, because some of the nebulas are very difficult to see with a naked eye with white light. So you can put filters on, and then you'll see them in different colors. So, you know, this is just one cherry-picked example. And if you look at it, if you squint maybe and you close your eyes, maybe you can say, oh, it looks kind of like a rose. This is, of course, what's going on. Post hoc reasoning. Hey, here's a verse that nobody knows. They still don't. But hey, this seems to match. Let's just say that's what it is. Now, if you had to bring up something else, a yellow one or something else that was spiral or something that didn't look anywhere like a rose, they just dismiss this. So they're cherry picking and post hoc reasoning. There's something that matches. I'll take that after the fact because I know what I'm trying to find, and I'm going to do the typical human thing, which is try to find a match with something I already believe to be the case. I'm not going to try and falsify it. I'm going to try and find something, even if I have to cherry pick, to confirm something. Again, this is what we
look like
opposite of critical thinking.
I don't think it looks like a rose. And here we have the typical example. Science confirmed the moon is splitting.
No,
what kind of an idiot do you have to
Where's
be
the evidence?
to say
Provided.
science?
He just said that science is doing it. Provide the argument. Provide us the link, whatever the case is. Put the keywords in here where NASA or somebody respectful. What's the word? Not respectful.
Peer-reviewed.
Well, peer-reviewed. Yeah. Refutable. Not refutable. What's the word I'm looking for? Respectable. Yes. Is saying the moon is splitting. I've never found that anywhere in anything, and I like cosmology. So by all means, provide the scientific evidence that the moon is splitting. Please do. The only thing that we know is that the moon is moving away from the Earth at about 4 centimeters a year. That's the only thing that I'm aware of.
Several NASA scientists who actually, cosmologists, who went on record, who were asked about this, who actually said, no, there is no indication that the moon was ever split. It is an impossibility due to gravity. So they actually went and did this. So NASA confirmed the opposite, okay? And these idiots are still going and saying, science confirms.
Yeah. Let's carry on with more post-hoc reasoning. We're not done yet by any stretch.
In the night sky, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so beautifully described in the Quranic verses.
Well, he didn't beautifully describe it. He described it as a rose. You can beautifully describe it, if you like, by describing what it's made up of, how the light reaches us. All those things that the mind, well, at least some minds, would want to understand, not something that you are kind of trying to make fit into a book that had no clue about reality.
The other verses, of course, was وَالْبَحْرِ الْمَسْجُورِ, and the ocean set on fire. And
okay, before we go to this, stops. If you know this, don't say anything. If you guys know this as well, don't say anything. But if you don't know, what do you think is coming next to show that the oceans are on fire? So if you guys all know, just say I already know what's coming. Then that's fine. But if you don't know, take a guess.
Okay, I'm okay. I'm gonna try to take a guess. Tsunamis.
Okay, the oceans are on fire. You're saying tsunamis. Anybody else who doesn't know what this is or hasn't seen this? What might your guess be? And if you're in the chat, because this will be coming afterwards, type in the chat what you think the supposed evidence is, or the miracle is, of the seas being set on fire. Right? What do you think it is? Somebody's point saying oil spill. If you ignited an oil spill, that might actually be, you might see the quote unquote, all you'd really see is the fire and the oil burning on top of the sea. The sea itself wouldn't be on fire, but lay people might say so. So that's one guess. Stops, you probably know what it is anyway. Nick, do you know what it is, or do you want to have a guess?
Fog. foggy
You
weather.
think you? What's it?
Foggy weather. So like in England, how it's always raining and foggy
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. They probably saw some fog and were like, "Oh my god, it's coming off the water."
Oh, so
bottle.
you're thinking more of the smoke,
Yeah,
like the smoke, not the fire itself, but the
Yeah.
smoke coming from it. Okay.
Yeah.
Fires of hell. Somebody else is saying Muhammad's big moon. All right. Well, look and see what let's show you what they think, or what they're choosing to believe is what the sea set on fire is. Here we go.
And again, when the first people who heard these verses were addressed, they did not know that there were literally fires under the ocean, the magma oozing out of the Earth's crust.
Oh, come on!
What actual shit?
Oh, come on! I was thinking
There
of
we
that.
go.
It's like that couldn't be the case. I was thinking of volcanoes, right? Volcanic eruptions. But like, really? That's what you thought?
There we go.
Actually, like try my best not to laugh right now.
This is what happens with human brains when they're trying to make stuff fit. You couldn't make, I say you can't make this up. Clearly these people are making it up. But for us, you'd battle to make stuff up like this. I mean, I don't know, Stops has probably watched it. I would have battled I wouldn't have thought of that either. I wouldn't have, my mind just is not set to trying to make stuff up like this. I would have thought like you guys, something on the top of the ocean that would have make it appear as if the water is quote unquote burning, not something under the ocean that you can't see. Right? And that's not the ocean burning. That's clearly, again, if the Quran was accurate, all it would say is, hey, from beneath the crust, where the earth is molten, burning lava or burning rocks will emerge. I'd be going, oh, okay. They might not have seen that under the ocean. They probably saw volcanoes anyway, so it wouldn't have been super spectacular because you can imagine happening under the ocean. But that would have been better than seas set on fire anyway. And I think we know as well, if this is the same one, that this is talking about end times, all kind of things happening that shouldn't really happen. And, but they're taking it as if this is a scientific miracle instead of recognizing that it's supposed to be describing end times when all kinds of, ridiculous things are happening. Everything that shouldn't happen happens. So water burns and, all that sort of rubbish.
Yeah, the mental gymnastics required to actually equate
Phenomenal,
the two.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't break their
exactly
back
what it
yet.
is. Now, the funny thing is, I didn't even watch it this far, but this is immediately what came to mind because she was talking about Nagar. And this Nagar guy, this is exactly the kind of twisting, exactly what Nick just said, is what he does. This is why you get also everything is made from water. So, I mean, listen to all the things that Muslims will have to come up with to justify those few sentences. It's crazy.
So somebody asked in the chat there, how should end times happen? Well, we know what's going to happen with quote unquote end times, which is that this particular sun is going to balloon out and become a red giant. It will engulf the earth, and the earth will be destroyed and engulfed by the intense heat, and will just melt away eventually. First the atmosphere and then everything else alongside it. That's what will happen to this particular planet. That's not end times of the universe, of course. That's just end times for this particular planet. And by that stage, 4 billion years from now, it's very unlikely there'll be any humans here. And hopefully some more advanced, life will have arisen here if it does. And hopefully it doesn't believe all the religious nonsense that our primitive life forms still believe. But we know what will happen eventually to the Earth.
Another option,
or it'll be wiped out by an asteroid or something. Yeah.
Well, we're going to have this collision between the two galaxies. Now, because of the vast spaces, it's unlikely that there is actually going to be a collision, but there is a chance of this happening. So obviously there is a chance of this entire solar system being destroyed if two suns or something collide, or they're going to go into this binding, in this gravity binding, and then that's going to wipe out everything. So there's different options of the end times of this planet. We are actually killing the planet. So the end time could be that in 100 years from now, we have killed the atmosphere. So this is also an option. So there's different ways of looking at the end times. But it's not going to be something that is induced by some merciful God who decides, no, I've had enough.
Yeah, and the end times, what does that actually refer to? End of the universe, or the end of simple humans on one small planet out of 2 trillion universes with 400 billion stars? It's insignificant in the great scheme of things. If that's what end times is, we'll poof out, and it'll be like nothing has changed in the universe, except to a few people who think that something more magical is going to happen.
the embryo, how it is created.
Okay, we've done this
All
a
of
million
those
times. We don't have to do this. Refer back again. These things that have been drawn like this to try and make it seem as if this has been done. Stops has done this. Other people have done this in Arabic. Even Hamza Tortis, who is certainly not the worst Muslim out there, tried to push this, and eventually even he gave up making this ridiculous argument about the embryology. So it's only Muslims who are really clueless, who have memorized this stuff, as this woman has, and not critically analyzed, that still make this. And unfortunately, there's still many of them. They're behind the curve. So at least Tortis has understood that he's not going to push this narrative anymore. And he's encouraged other Muslims not to. You can go watch the video online anyway, for the wrong reasons, but at least he's encouraged them not to. So when you see things like this, all we can say is that these Muslims just haven't caught up. In 5 or 10 years, they'll be saying the same thing. They won't believe it. Hopefully, they won't believe it either, and they will have got past these silly ideas. But at the moment, there's still plenty of them who believe this stuff.
Well, also, let me just say, we still have the time, thank God. Maverick, how the hell do you think an atheist has any idea of an end time? You should know, you've been here for years, you should know that an atheist is just the opposite of a theist, and a theist believes there's a God or goddess or whatever. So the atheist does not believe that. An atheist does not have an opinion on cosmology. It's the human being who happens to also have this attribute of not believing that gods exist. That's it. So stop doing this. You, of all people, should know that an atheist has no opinion on cosmology.
Verses confirmed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who sent down the Quran as a guidance for all of mankind.
It's also got some amazing insights into the ancient past. The Quran mentions that the people of Abraham worshipped the sun, the moon, and a third celestial object.
Okay, what do you think the third? I can't remember myself. What do you guys think the third celestial object is?
Oh dear Lord!
I can't actually remember myself.
The sun and the moon and the Jews used to.
Wait, yeah, what?
Do you want to go back a little bit?
Wait. The Lord, when the night grow dark. Wait, what's the verse? Sorry, can you go back?
He didn't say what the verses are. These are just part of a verse that's lifted out,
but
and it's in some interpretation.
Jews worshipped 3 objects.
Let's go back there. Hang on a sec. We'll play that bit again quickly.
To the ancient past. The Quran mentions that the people of Abraham worshipped the sun, the moon, and a third celestial object.
They don't say, well, I mean, there it says a star. So why are you saying third celestial object, if that's what it is?
The people of Abraham. Who are the people of Abraham?
Oh, this is like the environment that Abraham used to live in, like the one where he smashed the idols.
Yeah, but is this Jews or not?
No, this is not Jews. This is supposedly like ancient Mecca or something, where Abraham.
Well, we're not sure.
We're not even sure, but according to Islamic theology, that's what it is.
Okay.
Let's see. I can't remember what this third celestial object is. Well, it says there it's a star. So now let's see what they think it is.
Recent archaeological discoveries have shown that the people of this region did indeed worship an astral triad of the sun, the moon, and Venus.
Yeah. This I've heard. Yeah. There's a huge thing where people say about the Trinity in Islam. Absolutely, yeah.
But what's the point of this? What's so magnificent about this?
That you see the old Nabatean inscriptions and there's a lot of these symbols that Islam is actually built out of the Trinity of star, moon, and Venus. And you see this in a lot of the, it's not the inscriptions, there are a lot of drawings, there's a lot of all sorts of symbols associated with Islam, and you will see these 3 symbols. And it's only afterwards that they decided to drop Venus, and then they had the moon, and they left the worshipping of the sun and kept only the moon. But in the beginning, wherever you go, all the ancient paintings, they always have these 3 symbols in them. I've seen a documentary on this. It's quite fascinating.
I also got to ask a real quick question. This would have been historical at that time, right? So this wouldn't be too much of a novel prediction.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, right? What is this? What's so wonderful about this if people were doing it at the time?
And even people, in the Middle East, especially in the Middle East, they would know about this already. So it's not new knowledge.
Yeah.
Now, this knowledge was lost for thousands of years. It was only rediscovered recently.
How did you establish that?
20th century. Chapter 10 of the Quran makes the claim that the Pharaoh of Moses was drowned in the sea, and that his
This one's
they
the
will
poorest
preserve
one.
your corpse. Yeah. But let's see. There it is, 1092. Somebody can bring that up. We'll just check. Again, we want to fact check them. I mean, I can bring it up actually. 1093, right? 1092. Sorry.
Yeah, this is one of the things I just translated today, or condensed today, so I remember this.
Okay. So today we will save you in body, so that you may be with those who succeed you a sign. And indeed, many among the people of our signs are heedless. So they have got their. Whoops, where's my thing gone?
Yeah.
What are they saying there? They're saying today we will preserve your corpse. It doesn't say that in.
Yeah, it doesn't say
body.
corpse.
No, it doesn't say corpse, right? It says we will have your body.
Actually, let me double check with the. No. Hold on, one sec. Let me just double check.
Become an example for those who come.
While you double check, I'm too lazy to do it, because there's two versions of the story. In one, they're all killed, and one he's preserved. So there's a contradiction in the Quran.
Yeah, you'd have to find the verses there, stops. But I think what they're saying is obviously this, and you know where this is going anyway. This is supposedly corpse of the Pharaoh, which we haven't established anyway. They're going to preserve your corpse. Well, they're going to preserve a body, not a corpse, right?
Yeah.
What does a body mean anyway?
His body will be preserved as a sign for future.
Oh, he says body, right? And now they're saying corpse.
But
people who are not paying attention, they'll just meld the two together.
Yeah, bibadaneka is in your body, that is. So we will save you in your body. So it's just a body. It doesn't even say the word corpse in Arabic either.
No, and body traditionally had all kinds of different meanings. It wasn't necessarily just a corpse, but they have translated it to mean corpse. Why? So that they can try and make it fit with a pharaoh that was supposedly found.
Future generations. Historically, Egyptian priests hid the body of Ramesses II, who was the pharaoh of Moses, in a secret location until it was rediscovered in the year.
Say again, stops.
How do you know that?
Well, exactly. What does it say? It doesn't say Ramesses, does it?
No, it doesn't. They're just saying it's the pharaoh of Moses, but there's no way of knowing that.
And you don't know that it's Ramesses.
And it's just believed, widely believed, but it's not exactly like there's no evidence not only for that, but the fact that it's specifically Ramses II. People believe that, but that's oh crap! I lost my train of thought. Sorry. You can.
Well, I think what they're trying to do is say, hey, look, if we follow the genealogy in history, we'd find out that the Jews leaving, during Exodus, it would have been, if we look historically, that would have been Ramesses who would have been chasing them through the desert, blah, blah. That's how we know that it's this corpse. That's probably something like that. That's what they would say, something like that, presumably.
But as soon as you look at it, you notice it doesn't make sense. It can't be. The problem, main problem in my eyes is that the Quran copies the mistake of the Bible, where there is no name, and Pharaoh is taken as a name. It doesn't say the Pharaoh, the king. It just says king, as though this is Mike. Like if you take Philip or Peter, it's like a name and not as a title. So they copy the mistake from the Bible, and there is no way of knowing who it is, because if you're a king, if you're an emperor in Egypt, you must be like 40, 50 or something. Now, Moses was being found as a baby, as an infant. So if the guy is already 50 years old, by the time that Moses is 50, then the king must be like 100. So that is not possible, and definitely not possible that this guy is then going to ride on a chariot from Cairo all the way to the Red Sea or something. So it must have been somebody younger. So already we're facing the problem that we must be talking about two different pharaohs or pharaohs or whatever. So the whole story, just as soon as you start applying logical thinking, just falls apart.
1881 CE. Today, the mummy is on display in the Cairo Museum. So, how is it possible that the author of the Quran had access to such knowledge?
قل إن اجتمعت الإنس والجن على أن يأتوا بمثل
I'm letting this play for a reason like this.
القرآن لا يأتون
Could not produce a like of it.
بمثله.
Yeah, so two reasons I let that play. One, so that you can hear the hypnotic tones there. And what happens, because I learned hypnosis, is what you try to do is dissolve the critical faculties so that people are more suggestible. It doesn't mean that they can be controlled, but it does mean that they enter a more hypnotic state, like a meditative state, where they're not analyzing with the logical part of the brain. It's it's specifically done, and this sort of way that this guy was doing it, you can see how easily people will fall into that hypnotic state, and that's exactly what they want, right? Because if you analyze it critically like we're doing, then it all sort of falls apart. But if you just follow along with the ebb and flow and you don't think critically about this, then you have this wonderful time and you go, wow, that was amazing. Even Sam Harris has said this sounds wonderful, right? So it can happen to anybody who go, wow, I like the melody of this, but just stop and think and to analyze what's being said here. And as you pointed out there, the other thing is that he's talking about that unfalsifiable claim. Then you bring a surah like it, which you'll never be able to do.
Yeah,
And
Rob.
why won't you ever be able to do it? Because I've not set down criteria. B, I've left it to humans, and they've set it up in such a way that you can never meet the criteria. And that why not? Because the Quran says so. So there's always going to be a way out of let's make up 42 different ways that you can say things in the Quran, and then there's always one of those 42 we can say, it hasn't met that one, so no, we don't accept this as a surah like it. So it's completely unfalsifiable.
Yeah, and Rob, I just want to make a small critique here of what this Santa Claus cosplayer wanted to say. It's just that as much as he's trying to be hypnotic or say something beautiful, I honestly think that he should have made it should be done in all languages, because whatever's poetic in Arabic might not be the same. It might not carry the same poetic or beautification value in other languages like English, as we've seen with a few quotes and such, where like it sounds poetic in Arabic, but like when you bring it into English, it sounds like it came out of a camel's ass. Like it.
Remember, it's not for the words here. People are not listening to the words, so you don't have to be Arabic. You just lulled along by the melody. You have no clue what's being said. It could be said, this is coming from a camel's arse. And because you don't know the words, all that's happening is that there's this rhythm, right? Music is a powerful thing, and you don't need to understand the words that are being spoken. I mean, I'm sure you guys have listened to music from other cultures, and you've gone, okay, wow, that kind of sounds nice. And you get driven along by the melody of it, and you have no clue what's being said. And that's on purpose. You're not meant to do that.
But then why do I have such a strong aversion to this? How come? Where does this come from?
Yeah, and I think you give a good example. Like I was just listening to a song by Shakira, and then the song literally translates to the bicycle. And I'm like, this just sounds so melodious, but it's such a simple object. So, it's just something similar is just happening here.
I mean, we could speculate as well.
A couple of years ago from Romania. I mean, they were singing in Romanian. I don't speak Romanian. I didn't understand a word, but I loved the song.
Yeah, there you go, right? So it's not difficult to do this. And maybe Stops' aversion, like perhaps mine to some degree, is because we associate this sort of stuff with negative connotations, right? People all going for their minds to be stop thinking critically. They're all following in a cult-like format, and we're probably averse to that. So when you hear it in the mosques and so forth, you don't think of it as being good. You think of it as like, it's almost like that movie where what was that, Rowdy Roddy Piper, right? He was in that movie where he put on those glasses and he could see the aliens, but when he didn't have the glasses on, they looked like humans. I can't remember the movie, right? And then they play this music and people would just walk towards these things in a hypnotic trance. So maybe that's part of the aversion to this, right? Humans are just being, going along thinking they're going with, by their own quote unquote free will. But in actual fact, it's all done in a way to lure people to do things over and over in a way that's like very cultish.
But Rob, do you know something? I've just realized something while you were talking. Remember, I'm allergic to ads. So maybe ads are using the same kind of alluring, like smooth da 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 thing to lure you into believing that there's something special with this whatever product it is. And for some reason, I am allergic to this. So maybe my aversion to this is because of my allergy towards advertisements. So it could be that there's something built into me that indicates that this is very similar. Could be something like that.
By the way, just as a side note, if somebody can find out the movie, you go type in Rowdy Piper. Yes, he's the wrestler. He played in a movie. He was the hero in this particular movie where they're doing exactly what Stop says. The adverts, or when you put the glasses on, we will obey, we will follow. When you take the glasses off, it looks like normal adverts, right? So the movie had obviously this idea behind it that advertising, everything is exactly this. It's kind of this behavior to get people's to follow certain actions, to get them to do certain things. They live. There we go. Thank you very much. If you go and Google that, if you download it, I'm sure you can find a copy. It's many, many years old. Go watch it. It's fun because he does say a beautiful line, which I'll say now. He goes into a bank. He puts the glass on. He sees some of these aliens. I won't spoil the ending, but he just says, I've come here to kick ass. What I've come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. That's a very famous saying, and if you've ever played computer games, it was a saying that I didn't know that it came from that movie, and it was from a computer game, like a first-person shooter game. I can't remember the name of it, where there was this character that would go around killing everything in a first-person type, like Quake type of Doom game. And so I've come here and I'm to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of gum. In other words, I'm coming here to kick ass, right, essentially. And that was used in this movie. So go watch it. It's a fun movie, and you'll see exactly how the cultish behavior works in there and how they eventually overcome it.
Okay, ladies and gents, it is on the hour. We're a little bit late, so I hope you don't mind if we continue a little bit longer.
There's only 2 minutes left, 2 minutes something.
I'm just making people aware we haven't lost it or something. We are aware of that. So we just ask you for your indulgence.
There we go. Doorknob is my man. He and I are from the same time. Duke Nukem, if you've played that game, that guy had like this personality. He was this blonde-haired guy that smoked a cigar, had all these machine guns, and would just slaughter everything. And every now and again in the game, he'd say, I've come here to kick ass and chew gum, and I'm all out of gum type of thing. So there you go. Duke Nukem, that's the one.
Love the
that brings back memories.
See, this is like something when I started my journey, I always knew, and as a Muslim, this is what you're told. The Quran is the word of God, and it's a linguistic miracle. And it just takes a lot of effort in terms of once you reach a certain level of Arabic and you've tasted Arabic, especially Arabic outside the Quran, you get a feel for like how the Quran is so different to all other Arabic.
How do you do this, right? So two things there. One, he's been told that this is a miracle, so his brain is already primed to look for the way to confirm that it's a miracle. And the second, you get a feel for it. What does that mean? Does your heart like patter? Do you get this like warm sensation in your tummy? How does this demonstrate the Quran is true? And how did you establish that it's different from all other books? Have you read every other Arabic book? How did you establish there's some other book out there that you haven't read that's just as miraculous or even better than the Quran?
In the way
because you've been told.
In the way they describe it, it's almost like a teenager describing his experience of erotica.
It's like in those adverts, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's weird. Like in those recovering from addiction or those recovering from, certain types of addictions, and then they're telling their story. So it does sound like, something like, oh, he's just telling a personal story, and they're purposely have the music to make it more dramatic.
Yeah, and like what shocks me a bit, like at this point, like I got like this entire video, they've been going off of I felt this, I felt that, I felt aroused here, I felt like down here, I felt angry here, and like I'm sure like flat earthers feel angry when they read science books, but that doesn't make the science books wrong in any way, right?
Yeah.
One example that the scholars give, they say in one verse of the Quran al-Karim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions in this one verse 2 commands, 2 prohibitions, and 2 glad tidings are given. All of these 6 things are mentioned in just one verse. Now you try put a sentence together, just one sentence that mentions all of those 6 things, it is very, very hard. And
how did you establish it's very, very hard? the brainwashing of these people is just, it's very sad, isn't it? It's very hard. How did you establish this hard? And why not 7 or 8 of these things instead, right? It's the same sort of thing. Go on, Stops. I know you're laughing away there.
No, I'm laughing. That's all I can do. I can only laugh.
It's just like there's just no critical thinking. If they had to question atheists or Christians, suddenly then critical thinking might appear. But look at their own book and it just completely dissolves, right? It's like exactly like they live. It's like the glasses are off and they're just seeing everything around them, thinking that this is magnificent. Suddenly they put the glass, but they don't look to put these glasses on to look at their own book. No. At that stage, they've got to look away, right? And when they look down, they've got to pull the glasses off before they look down at the book in case it reveals something that they don't want to see.
And if you are able to, it won't be as eloquent, as beautiful as the Quran al-Karim.
And then we look at the miraculous aspects of word choice and positioning. For instance, we take Surah Yasin. Allah tells us in Surah Yasin, وَكُلٌّ فِي فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ. And every one of them, meaning those celestial objects, the sun, the moon, the earth, and the rest of the objects in the solar system. And
It doesn't say that. This is just what he's inferring. It doesn't say all the objects in the solar system. As I remember, it says the sun and the moon float in their orbit. It doesn't say all the other ones. But even if it did, what does that actually mean to anybody anyway? Now we understand, oh, wow, how amazing is this? They all have an orbit. They don't float in an orbit in that sense. I mean, this is just ad hoc reasoning at its worst, right? Let's just incorporate everything else.
Yeah, I'm shocked that they haven't broken their back from all the gymnastics that they're doing.
They're used to it, so
yeah, they're used to it.
Yeah, no, these guys should go into like WWE or the Olympics with all.
No, man, no. We have enough crazy people in the WWE. We don't need these people.
Yeah, no. At least in the WWE, they have an excuse with CTE. Like these guys are all just showing those symptoms without getting smacked in the head a few times.
Don't we know today that the 2 brothers coming down mentioned by Nostradamus were, of course, the Twin Towers?
Of course. I mean, that was remarkable, right? That's just incredible. Let's finish this off and see how much other incredible stuff is in this video.
is in its own orbit swimming. If we read from beginning to end, and if we read it from the end to the beginning, it is exactly the same letters. So in this part of the ayah, that message is literally represented visually in order for us to see that.
Look at this, right?
What? Okay. How it's I used to like it. It literally sounds like one of those dollar bill type of things. Like, oh, this symbol is on here, a symbol on here. Look, there's some conspiracy. It's like it's the same nonsense. Just what does this prove? Kaf la fa yin fa la kaf. What does this prove?
Bro, like I'm shocked they haven't proved the Illuminati yet.
Oh man.
I mean, this is just, again, cherry picking at the highest level. Let's find 7 words. Again, I'm taking it charitably. We have to look this up to, in fact, see whether the Arabic does say this or whether they're making this up. I'm charitable at the moment because I'm not looking it up in the Quran, but let's say it did. You've cherry picked 7 words. You've taken 7 words out of an entire ayah, right? Out of an entire verse, and you've gone, wow, they go back to front and front to back. I mean, how much more cherry picking can you possibly do? You can find every other ayah where they don't do that. So find 7 words. If the whole Quran did that, you might go, wow, okay, that's unusual. How did they do that? But cherry picking 7 words in one ayah and then going, look, they go backwards. And then let's superimpose the planets on it. And let's just hypnotize our viewers here, because if you're a Muslim, you will just go, that's amazing. I'm not going to look at this. I'm not going to analyze this with my critical brain because that's gone on holiday. This is just amazing. I mean, I'm going to go and repeat. I'm going to memorize what I've heard, and I'm going to repeat it to other people. But then I'm going to be very upset when they then suddenly use their critical thinking brain, which I haven't done because I've memorized it, and they tell me that this is cherry picking. Then I'm going to get defensive. I'm going to get upset and go, you guys are just Islamophobes or whatever other made up words I can get, because I just believed and memorized what I heard. And because you guys aren't accepting it, I'm going to get very upset.
And swimming with the letters themselves.
So it's hard to describe. You can talk about specific
It is hard to describe, and you guys haven't done a good job at all at the moment.
techniques that are used in the Quran and so forth. But just like the fact that it's a book that I've spent hours and hours on, but there's still so much more, and I know that it's an ocean that I can keep diving into. So that for me tells me that this can't just be any.
Rob, can just pause a second? Can I show you something? I think this is quite strange. This is what I did for my 19 miracle. Who wants to read this? Mustafa, you read this.
All right, sure. The date of the attack, 9/11. -9 +1 +1 equals 11. September 11th is the 254th day of the year. 2 + 5 + 4 equals 11. After September 11th, there are 111 days to the end of the year. The first plane to hit the towers was Flight 11. American Airlines, or AA. A is the first letter in the alphabet. So we have, again, 1111. The state of New York, the 11th state added to the Union, New York City, 11 letters.
Beautiful stops. Now, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I'd be going, look at that. That's amazing, right?
That's
and of course, for those who are
get.
exactly, and for those who are wondering, this is how you can do post hoc, ad hoc reasoning. Go and look for something to make up some sort of pattern, and then tell everybody how wonderful it is. The fact that this guy can go and look back at the Quran, and there's just all this ocean of stuff there. For him, this is a miracle. For me, it's exactly the opposite. Why? Because the book itself in Surah 12, 111, as Bob the Builder, and I said it actually before I knew that Bob was saying it and other people have said it, tells us this is a clear book that talks about everything. Firstly, it doesn't talk about everything. But secondly, I should be able to read it in one single go and understand it clearly. Instead, this guy and every other Muslim has to go and read it again and again and come up with their own, quote, interpretations, because it can't be clear enough for humans. Either humans are unable, or the creator is unable to produce it in such a way that humans can read it. But this is what this guy thinks is amazing. I think it's exactly the opposite. It's a muddled mess of ambiguity, repetition, and nothing substantial in there whatsoever. So you can go back and read it over and over again and make up your own things to suit yourself, and then come and pat yourself on the back because you've made up some interpretation. Well, great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for you, the book tells you that it's supposed to be clear, and you and I should not have different interpretations. In fact, other Muslims shouldn't have interpretations. But what do we find? That they all have different interpretations on different bits here and there.
Yeah, and Rob, I gotta also mention to the audience, I find it very hard to take him seriously when he's dressed up as Don Cheadle's character from Rush Hour 3.
Yeah, I try to put his dress and everything else aside. I'm just trying to listen to the words here. But the fact that he thinks this is miraculous is just, this is what I mean without critical thinking, because they are already so indoctrinated into believing this. Whatever comes up, they can rationalize as being amazing. Even though the Quran is ambiguous, a mess, or it's all over the show, you can't be clear on what it's actually saying. For them, listen to this. This is how the guy will rationalize and say, this is amazing. When somebody does that, what chance have you got of actually ever having any sort of critical conversation with somebody like this? The fact that they can do that. Is there something this guy cannot rationalize? Hey, maybe I'll give him the inheritance error and he can do what all the other Muslims have and just rationalize a mathematical error and come up with some contradiction and say, well, I'm okay with a contradiction, or no, the contradiction is there, but I don't accept it as a contradiction. And they can just become irrational. I mean, we've seen it time and again, right?
It's not the word of man.
Well, there we go. There we go.
Well done.
What can we say about that to close it off, gentlemen?
It's a big pile of bullshit. Bullshit. I can't even get the word out because I'm laughing so much. It's a big pile.
What can you do with this? How Muslims are always like, they hate this. They say, yeah, but you're always mocking. Well, what else can you do with this? You cannot take it seriously. You can't.
Well, you can, but it's going to kill your heart because, like, obviously these guys take it seriously. But, like, it's bipartisan. You either have a brain or you take this stuff seriously. Can't do both.
All right,
Yeah,
guys.
I think-
Thank you very much for the time. Sorry,
Thank
Mustafa,
you.
just two things. I want to ask everybody to give me a thumbs up and try and like, or even if you take a thumbs down, it's okay because the algorithm counts either one as interest. And the more interest we
Oh,
generate,
really?
the better it is. Yeah. It's positive or
really?
negative, it doesn't matter.
Oh.
The other thing is, if you do want to discuss Islam a little bit more, please do join us on our Discord channel. You have the link in the description box. You have the link here underneath. So there's different ways that you can get in touch with us if you want. If there's anybody out there who does want to come and debate us, like there have been two people now who have expressed interest in this, you can do it either which way. You can do it with low bandwidth on Discord. You don't have to do it on YouTube. You don't have to do it on any thread or something. You can do it on Discord or something. And Mustafa, you still wanted to say something?
Oh,
Nick,
no,
can you
no.
just mute- Nick, can you just mute yourself because you're making a lot of background noise?
Oh,
Oh,
shoot.
me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, just saying, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, guys. It was a lovely discussion. We're going way over time right now. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
I still have the Hadith.
Okay, if you bring that up, stops.
Yes, we
I'll just do a
forgot.
quick closing there.
Jumping
So I
the
think
gun here. Because this is a funny, well, actually, this is sad. Oh, Allah, give food to the family of Muhammad. Sahih al-Bukhari. Now, instead of giving food to starving kids or to look after people and try and keep, like illnesses and cancer and all these things at bay, it says give food to the family of Muhammad. Muhammad, the richest guy on the Arabian Peninsula, the guy who goes and robs caravans and settlements and everything, who confiscates and just sort of takes over in entire orchards, and then give food to the family of Muhammad. I find this sick. Really, I find this sick. Anyway, this is what I have for today as the Sahih Bukhari Hadith. Thank you very much. Last words.
Yep. So I think hopefully the video shows again, the level of, or the lack of critical thinking and the way that some brains have to operate to make things true. And it's very sad that happens. But I think, again, we've seen exactly how this works. And if you can rationalize, the fact that it's not clear, that you have to keep going back there, for example, as something that's good, well, then to me, there's no hope that there's nothing that you cannot rationalize. It's like having faith. There's nothing you can't take on faith. When somebody is that irrational, then there's no way that you can actually have any sort of conversation, because their brain is such, and they don't even realize. That's the other sad thing. And I'm not attacking Islam. We're critiquing it and pointing out how ridiculous some of these people's beliefs are. And when you look at the book itself, which most Muslims haven't done, you just find that it falls to pieces when you look at it with a critical eye. So again, thank you very much to everybody. And I'll leave it there for me.
Okay, let's go clockwise. Mustafa, have you said your last words? Your leaving parting sermon? Nick?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun on here. Like, this stuff made me laugh quite a bit. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be joining the Discord after, because I have quite a bit to say, but unfortunately, like, the show is over, right? So.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the people in the chat. Thank you for being with us. And I saw some nice and spirited, well, no, I'm not going to say this because I think you guys had fun when Maverick was here. Thank you very much to everybody on the panel. Thank you to Nick. Thank you to Mustafa. Thank you to Mr. Speakers. We'll see you next week on the 14th of May 2021. And if anybody wants a specific theme or a different topic or whatever, go right ahead. We always have an open ear here. See you next week. Goodbye.